Hello, boys and girls. Once again, I'm here to treat you to a exciting and wholesome story from the Holy Bible. And again, it's one that I have tweaked a little to make it more palatable for young ears. This story is about a very special man who was favored by his uncle Abraham and by God. This man lived in a town named Sodom. Once upon a time, there lived a very righteous man named Lot, who was the nephew of Abraham, whom the God, the one who had always existed and created his own enemy just to keep things interesting, favored and eventually renamed Abraham, like the song. You know, Father Abraham had 7 sons, had 7 sons, had father. Anyway, it was a song I knew from camp. And okay. Now, Lot lived in a very wicked city called Sodom, which had a lot of naughty people who loved to partake in a lot of questionable activities, and especially among the men who preferred to, they liked to use the back door a lot. When God, in his loving kindness and infinitely just mercy, decided to burn this city and every living thing to a crispy cinder, he first sent 2 angels to pay a little visit to Lot and to warn him and his wife and 2 daughters so they might be spared, because it was a fact God liked Lot a lot. Well, as it so happens, these 2 angels were really smoking hot, and the robes they wore failed to properly conceal the extent of their heavenly glory, or the perfectly formed alabaster skin of their ankles and wrists. So a lot of Sodom's men, both young and old, upon seeing them, got all hot and bothered, sowing their seed of wild oats all over the sidewalk and each other too. Kind of yucky when you think about it. At the center of the town, they gathered in force and drank themselves silly, which made them very bold. Then, as was their lot, they went to visit Lot, carrying lots of torches and handcuffs and wearing their best heart-patterned undies and purple cloaks, hoping for a lot of, fun with the 2 angels, whom they were mistaking as just 2 new cuties in town. As it so happens, Lot's little house, no matter what the season, always appeared vacant from the outside, which in years to come would inspire the phrase we all still know, vacant lot. Well, the same was true this evening. Even with the addition of the 2 angels, Lot's lot seemed very vacant indeed. So the men, as they approached, didn't bother to lower their voices, but howled 4-letter words really loudly, not caring if God heard or not caring at all, because after tomorrow they'd all be crispy cinders anyway. And also they didn't believe in God either, because they were really evil atheists. But Lot believed in God. And God liked Lot a lot because he was so very righteous, unlike all these rowdy losers coming up to his doorstep. So Lot felt God's protection when he stepped out of his front door to confront this horny horde. They greeted him with shouts, demanding to hand over his two attractive young guests at once for their unsavory atheist Camelot rituals. Of course, Lot, being such a righteous man, refused to cave in to their demands, and instead snatched up his two young daughters and offered them to the crowd instead. "You can do what you want with my girls," cried Lot. "They are only female after all, and made for such sport. But leave my holy guests alone." The crowd was enraged by this, and hurled cans of whipped cream and petroleum jelly and jars of all manner of strange objects and Lot had never seen before at Lot and his struggling girls, and also the glowing angel standing behind him. "Shocking," said one of the angels. He raised a middle finger at the mob, and a blinding light from just that tiny sampling of his form struck blindness upon the crowd, who dispersed at once in all directions, howling into the night. Then Lot went to his sons-in-law, the husbands of his two daughters, to warn them also to flee the city. But these young men were also evil and ignorant atheists. They chose to be cooked to a cinder instead. So the next morning Lot left town with his family, except they couldn't find Treasure, the loyal family dog, which made Lot's wife, Bring a Diddy, very sad. She looked everywhere for the little dog and finally reluctantly gave up the search and followed Lot and her two daughters on a path away from the city. But then all at once she heard a distant bark, and she turned back to call the dog. Sadly, this was very unfortunate for her. The two angels had warned that no one should look back, because if they did, they'd be killed at once. So Bring a Diddy was turned at once into a pillar of salt, which the dog promptly mistook as a fire hydrant. But happily, not before Lot managed to collect a small sampling to season their meat with later that night. That evening, the two daughters were both very sad. They missed their corrupt and evil atheist husbands fiercely, who were now charred cinders lying amongst the smoking rubble of Sodom. "How will we ever get to be mommies now?" one of the girls. They rarely give girls names in the Bible, have you noticed? Asked the other. Then the second daughter looked lustily at Lot, their father. "Come, let's help get father drunk," she suggested. "Then maybe if we can get to know him enough, God will bless us." "Good idea," said the youngest. "I'll do him tonight. You can do him tomorrow." So together they got their dad really sauced up for the next 2 nights. And Lot had wonderful, wonderful time having wholesome father-daughter bonding time with his kids, even despite the fact he had just offered to sacrifice them to the whims of the men of Sodom just earlier that very same week. Then Lot became a grandfather twice, and they lived happily ever after. So that's my story of Lot and Sodom and his 2 daughters and the 2 angels and the poor wife who ended up being a condiment. And yes, if you've listened all the way through, you're a good little Christian, and I hope you've learned a great deal from this story. So thanks for stopping by. Bye.